Ignoring his best friend Ted's advice to keep it simple, Anderson goes all out. He arrives at the crowded restaurant dressed in a full Cupid costume, wings, bow, the whole spectacle. The plan? Propose to his girlfriend, Vanessa, in front of everyone. But what was meant to be a moment of love quickly turns into horror. The grand gesture is so shocking, so overwhelming, that Vanessa goes into shock. In a split second, tragedy strikes. She suffers a fatal heart attack and dies on the spot, right in front of Anderson. A scene meant for joy becomes the very first chapter of trauma, forever shaping Anderson's view of love, marriage, and proposals. A year after the tragic death of his fiancée during his first proposal, Anderson is still emotionally frozen in time. He hasn't healed. He hasn't moved on. He's simply stuck. One afternoon, while having lunch at a small diner, his best friend Ted decides he's had enough. Ted bluntly points out something harsh but true. Anderson's mourning period has officially lasted longer than the relationship itself. It's time to move on. Tired of the lecture and desperate to prove he's fine, Anderson makes a reckless declaration. He will propose to the next woman he sees. It's meant to end the conversation. Maybe even prove a point. Then he looks up. Across the diner is a waitress named Katie, played by Isla Fisher. Without thinking, without planning, without knowing her at all, Anderson walks over and proposes. Right there. On the spot. And in a twist neither he nor Ted expects. Katie says yes. But here's the real shock, her yes is just as impulsive as his proposal. The film slowly reveals that Katie is at a crossroads in her own life. She's stuck in a dead-end job. Trapped in a dull, passionless relationship with her boyfriend, William. Nothing feels exciting. Nothing feels alive. Just the night before, William awkwardly proposed to her during a game of charades, an unromantic, uncomfortable moment that left her confused rather than thrilled. It didn't feel like love. It felt like settling. Desperate for clarity, Katie had recently visited her father, Smitty, in prison. His advice was simple: listen to your heart. So when a complete stranger dressed in emotional chaos suddenly proposes in the middle of a diner, Katie doesn't see madness. She sees fate. To her, it feels like the universe handing her an escape, a wild, reckless chance to break free from the life she feels trapped in. And, just like that, two broken, impulsive decisions collide. Launching a relationship built not on stability, but on desperation, coincidence, and the hope that maybe chaos can turn into love. Now that the I do's are technically on the table, Anderson and Katie face one tiny problem. They're engaged, but they don't even know each other's last names. Instead of a romantic honeymoon phase, their first week together turns into a survival test. They're not building a relationship, they're trying to merge two completely dysfunctional worlds. And trust me, it only gets worse. Meet Anderson's parents. First stop? Anderson's parents, Lyle and Betsy. And no, they are not the sweet, conservative, quietly supportive type. They are wildly, unapologetically affectionate. This is a couple that keeps their marriage alive with whipped cream, zero boundaries, and absolutely no sense of privacy. Anderson is mortified. Katie? She's just trying to get through her first family dinner without witnessing something she'll need therapy to forget. If this is her future in-laws, she might need protective gear. Now enter Katie's side. But if you think Anderson's family is chaotic, Katie's side is pure madness. Her mother, Lois, is emotionally unstable and constantly overwhelmed. Her stepfather, Stuart, is an aspiring inventor, but not the successful kind. His greatest achievement? Creating failed Jewish-themed toys, including something called the Junicorn. Yes, that's real. And just when you think it can't escalate any further, it does. Katie's biological father, Smitty, played by Joe Pantoliano, is a hardened convict. And he doesn't just give his blessing. He literally escapes from prison, just to walk his daughter down the aisle. Because apparently, nothing says family support like a full-blown prison break. And let's not forget the final ingredient in this disaster recipe, Katie's ex-boyfriend, William. He refuses to believe this whirlwind engagement is real. At first, he thinks it's a prank. Then he thinks it's insanity. And eventually, he gets violent. As Anderson and Katie race toward Atlantic City, William physically attacks Anderson on the side of the road, convinced he can still win Katie back. Now it's no longer just awkward. It's dangerous. By the time this chaotic group ends up robbing a tuxedo shop, and landing in the same police station. The fantasy finally cracks. This isn't cute anymore. This isn't destiny on a silver platter. It's messy. It's reckless. It's borderline criminal. And now Anderson and Katie are forced to ask themselves the real question. Is this fate bringing two broken people together? Or are they just too stubborn, too impulsive, and too crazy to walk away? Just when you think this wedding can't possibly get any messier, it does. And not in a someone forgot the cake kind of way. In a felony kind of way. Since this entire engagement was impulsive and completely unplanned, the parents suddenly realized something important. They forgot essentials. Like tuxedos. Now, most families would rush to a rental shop and beg for last-minute help. But not this family. Their solution? Armed robbery. Yes. Instead of planning a wedding, they accidentally commit a crime. And just like that, the bride, the groom, and both sets of wildly dysfunctional parents all end up crammed into the same police station. At this point, most people would see this as a cosmic warning, a sign from the universe, a flashing neon message that says, "Go home." But Anderson and Katie? They double down. In a move that feels less romantic comedy and more action movie, the group stages a chaotic breakout from police custody. They don't just slip away quietly. They hijack an actual police van. And they floor it toward Atlantic City. Against common sense. It's reckless. It's absurd. But somehow, it's also the most alive either of them has felt. Against all odds, they make it to a chapel. And in a moment that is somehow both heartfelt and completely unhinged. Anderson and Katie finally say I do. They've gone from total strangers in a diner to literal partners in crime. In record time. This isn't a fairy tale romance. It's chaotic, impulsive, and wildly unpredictable. But for the first time, their decision feels real. Don't expect a peaceful honeymoon exit. Just as the officiant pronounces them husband and wife, the sirens catch up. Police storm the chapel. The newlyweds are tackled and arrested right there at the altar. No carriage ride. No rose petals. Just handcuffs. They may be heading to a prison cell instead of a honeymoon suite. But at least now, they finally know each other's last names.